All right, well, I think if nobody else objects or is waiting on anyone, I think we'd like to kick off our third quarterly local hero Go Campaign Local Hero Zoom of 2023. Thank you to everyone that is joining today. We're really excited to have you here today for this call. Really excited to introduce David Elungat, the founder and executive director of Voice for Humanity Uganda. Voice for Humanity Uganda is an organization that we partnered first with in 2022 to provide 100 refugee youth living in the Adjumani refugee camp of Uganda with agricultural training and tools necessary to grow vegetables or raise livestock. Very successful grant, so we continue this work in 2023, focusing instead solely on quick growing vegetables that can meet the immediate food need and income need of 105 refugee youth and their families. But before I go on and on talking about the amazing things Voice for Humanity has accomplished with oftentimes limited resources, but still maximum impact, we'd like to give David the opportunity today to share all these stories himself and have a casual discussion with our amazing Go Campaign community. So without further ado, David, we'd love to hear about you and let you introduce yourself and share how Voice for Humanity Uganda came to be.
Wow, thank you so much. A very good morning to everyone, and good evening to those in my end here, because it's actually 6:34 here in Uganda.
Sometimes David's internet freezes, often when he gets an incoming call. So give it like 5 minutes.
Are you getting me? Sorry?
Yeah, we're getting you now. No worries.
Yeah, sir. I'm so happy for this invite and this opportunity to be able to speak to our friends this beautiful morning, I guess. As already said, my name is David Elungat. I'm the founder and executive director of Voice for Humanity Uganda, which is a local non-profit that I founded. Of course, it is an idea back, which I'll share shortly. But yeah, so eventually came into practical action in 2013. That's when we started to operate. But this is an idea that came way back from my childhood, just to be able to give you a background to how Voice for Humanity came to be. Voice for Humanity is really more about my personal experience as a child. Growing up in the rural parts of Uganda in East Africa. First of all, I lost my parents at a very tender age. My dad, actually, I didn't get an opportunity to see him because he passed on when I was literally 1 year, from the stories that I got later on to know. And my mom just passed on about when I was about 13 years. And that's the first part of it. But the second part of it is that I grew up in an internally displaced people's camps. So as a child, one, I was an orphan, a total orphan for that sake. But secondly, that I grew up in a settlement in a people internally displaced people's camp. Because then my parents, together with all the people from my village, had ran away because of internal, cattle raiding, which had been there for, decades, definitely. So I never had an opportunity to stay in my real village as a child. But, most importantly, growing up as an orphan in an IDP camp came with so many challenges, which I went through. From lacking what to eat, I literally went through several days without food. And I remember vividly that we didn't have any humanitarian support then. It was ideally the community that was, supporting. I had friends whose parents really became my parents because they just chose to support me. And so I had those days when I could really go without food. I personally dropped out of school at some point because I didn't have an opportunity to be in school. It was not until actually a friend of mine gave me some little money, which was less than less than $1, and he gave me to start off some business. That's what really gave me hope, and I started to do my personal business. But in between all of that, there was lost hope in me. I didn't see a future. I didn't see any hope in life. And as a child, there was a lot of hopelessness that at some point I attempted suicide literally 4 different times. And I would say maybe I'm a miracle of survival today. I am basically a miracle because I attempted suicide at the age of 14, 15, attempted suicide 4 different times because of hopelessness. I didn't see anything that really, that meant life for me. I'm not, first of all, living within my village where I'm born. I'm displaced. My parents have passed on. My father died and my mother dies in the camp. And so life was generally hopeless for me. It didn't make any sense. And by then, there were no humanitarian support. It was really about the community coming together to support this orphan. And what changed my narrative of a story that I am passionate even today is a friend who came my way and just gave me less than $1. And from that less than $1, at age 15, I started to do a small business. And that's where I started to generate some money. And I was able to go back to school. I was able to pay myself, buy myself the basics that I needed to be in school. And so that touched me from that age of 15. And for me, it was always, what could I give back for children? Because I wasn't alone. There were many. And today we are speaking, there are so many children like David who are living in the settlement. So for me then was, what could I do for children in my similar situation? And so that is what gave birth to Voice for Humanity Uganda. It's actually an idea that came right from the age of 15. It was there. I was studying while knowing I really want to give back and support children that are hopeless, that are going through days without food, that are having challenges, that have no one to support them. How can I be somebody who can hold their hand and walk with them? So that's the basis. So today, Voice for Humanity exists primarily to support young people, to be able to create their own employment and to be able to produce their own food so that they can have what to eat, but also have money to support themselves back in school. I'll share with you a little bit later on some stories that have really touched me and passionately helped me to do this work, even in the midst of challenges, that I'm so passionate that, I see the changes, the stories, transformation in the community. And it is like, yes, I think this is why I exist. And this is perhaps why I didn't die even in the moments that I tried to commit suicide. So that's really the background about Voice for Humanity, and that's what Voice for Humanity stands for today. It's really to impact the lives of young people, of children that that are affected by conflict, and that's why we work with the refugees. But also we have children that have been internally displaced, children who have lost their parents due to HIV and AIDS, and so many other challenges. Those are children that we are working really with today and changing their stories. Keegan, thank you.
Thank you, David. I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you for sharing such moving, really impactful on the mind stories. It's really helpful to hear about your experiences, to understand your beneficiaries better, because nobody understands your beneficiaries better than you. I mean, you have lived experience, and you continue today to absorb yourself in that world of helping young, especially refugee youth. We would love to hear more about the types of opportunities that Voice for Humanity does bring to youth and families in Uganda. And how have the lives of your beneficiaries changed thanks to the training and services that they've received from Voice for Humanity?
Yeah, so thank you. So for Voice for Humanity, it's really about two things that we provide for the children and young people that we work with. We recognize that, number one, that there is a skills gap. For refugees that we are working with, you realize that literally 70% of them have dropped out of school, and others have never gone to school. So there is a skill gap. And so with the skill gap, they can't be able to even get formal employment. So for us as Voice for Humanity, we are providing the necessary skills that enable these young people to create their own employment and be able to earn income. But most importantly, we provide them with the startup tools and seed capital. That because training alone won't be able to. So we have seen hundreds of young people that were provided training in vocational skills, that were provided training in agricultural or farming technologies, and so after those trainings, then we give them the necessary startup kits or startup capital, seed capital, to really kickstart them. As I shared with you my story, if I had not received that seed capital, if I had not received that starting point, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. So that, for me, is what we are passionate about, giving young people the skill and then the starting point for them to be able to kickstart. And that's sustainable, because then they are able to carry on. And we're seeing, like I said, I will share some of this touching stories that have really inspired me. We're seeing some of these young people helping their own, other fellow young people within the community, with the skills that they receive, but even with the support that they have already received. So what have we seen? What's the change that we've seen through our programs? I can say, Keegan, we have seen so many households and young people getting independent. We've seen so many, especially for the refugees that we've been working since 2016. We are seeing many of them really getting less reliant on aid. In Adjumani, where we are, operating, we have about 220,000 refugees in Adjumani alone, where we operate. And over 65% of these are young people. And a majority of them are basically reliant on aid support from World Food Program and other UN agencies and development partners. However, what we are seeing as a change is that many of those young people that have gone through our programs have less and less become reliant on aid support. And this, already the government is appreciating it. UNHCR is moving towards that. Recently, as I shared with you, Keegan, the government of Uganda, together with the UN, Refugee Agency, and World Food Program, are having challenges with funding. And, so they are saying we can't be able to support every refugee. And so they are going to what they call targeted ratio, where just, those who are seen to be extremely vulnerable. For example, the mothers who are, breastfeeding, or the elderly, or those who are living with HIV and AIDS. Those are really the ones that are really being targeted. But that leaves a majority of, households out of the support. And many of them are becoming hopeless. So this is restoring hope, because then they are able to become self-reliant in a process. They are able to sustainably meet their own basic needs. We are seeing many young people being able to produce more food for themselves, and because they're able to produce more food for themselves and their households, even the amount of, the amount of food that they consume increases. I can tell you, Keegan, and the rest of the members that are listening, because of the financial challenges, each refugee in Uganda is receiving about $10 to survive for a month. $10. And the $10 is supposed to take care of food, is supposed to take care of every other needs for 30 days. Honestly, how is that possible, really? But you know, the UN they can't do much. That's all they can do, really. They can offer that. So our programs really come in so handy to help these refugees and fill in the gap, you know, that is being left, to help these refugees, you know, be able to produce their own food, become more and more self-reliant. We have seen other young people going back to school. I'll share with you briefly a story later of a young person that has this is a 15-year-old that I will share later his story. He's just gone back to school because of the program that we provided. You know, we gave him the vegetables. He grew and he got money. He went back to school. And this term just closed today. He was the third in his class, the third in position. You know, somebody who had dropped out of school. So we are seeing some young people already going back to school, having hope because now they have income. You know, others are taking on the career and saying, for me, I want to now do farming as a business, and they are earning income and you know, being able to support even their own families and other neighbors. And so these are all the changes that we're seeing as a result of this program. But of course, we know the gap is huge. The needs are huge, very massive, you know, but, you know, it's a good start. It's a good start. And we're happy with the changes that we're seeing, the transformation that's happening, the hope that's being restored, the young people that are able to, you know, become self-employed, earning income, the households that are now having 3 meals a day, you know, rather than 1 meal a day. And that's really even improving on their health. You know, and so this is really the transformation that's happening in the community.
Amazing. And David, I know we'll get to beneficiary stories in a bit, but I'm just curious, the beneficiary you mentioned that ended up paying for his own school to go back to school. Was he a beneficiary of a GO Campaign grant from 2021 or 2022 or from the grant this year?
Yes, he was a beneficiary of 2021, but we have many, I mean 2022.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, but then we have those already, you know, registering so much success, even in the grant that we just gave out in May this year. We you know, we've seen some already others harvesting the tomatoes and earning money. We have one of the beneficiaries who actually last week when we interacted, he had already raised about $500 from selling his tomatoes, and he was very excited, said, I'm going to open another business, you know, and the community is benefiting from his tomatoes. And so we're seeing really massive transformation. And I just want to point out that GO Campaign support has really come in handy. I want to say that, really. This has, you know, it has come, I would say, timely, in a period when UN and World Food are saying, look here, we don't have funding. We don't have funds to take care. Uganda has 1.4 million refugees. Uganda is hosting. And in Adjumani, where we are, as I said, 220,000 refugees. And so UN is saying, we don't have enough resources. There is global crisis all over. And so we are seeing more and more food cuts, you know, cuts in food ratios. We are seeing households being left out. Already 4% of the Ugandan refugee population has been left out as of January. They are not receiving any ratio, zero, completely. And so you can imagine these 4% households, where do they turn to? You know, they're out of their homes. They are in a place where they have a small piece of land given by, you know, the government of Uganda. And so GO Campaign has come in, and the majority of these are, of course, young people, have no skills, have no resources. They have the passion to change their lives, but don't have the means. And so Go Campaign has come in so handy. And I want to thank, all the team from Go Campaign and all the supporters from that have been giving funding to Go Campaign for this support. From 2022 July to now, we've been able to support 210 refugees with the funding from Go Campaign. This is massive, and these are direct beneficiaries. But we have households, household members for these young people that are also benefiting. This could go indirectly up to about 2,500 or 3,000 members of households where these young people are coming from, indirectly benefiting from this support. So we are really happy because this support, the funding that Go Campaign has given us, has enabled us to be able to train the young people, but also give them the tools that they need. The startup, tools, the startup seed capital that they desperately need to get started and change their lives. So I would say thank you so much. Whoever is listening, everyone who is listening, thank you for being behind the stories and the transformation that's happening in Uganda with the refugees. And, more lives are being changed. As these refugees are able to produce their own food, lives are being changed, saved, and lots of transformation. But also I want to say that Go Campaign has been a unique partner for us. We haven't had this kind of unique partner in a way that your funding has not just been financial. You've given us technical support. Out of Go Campaign, we now have a 5-year strategic plan. We didn't have that before, but it has been a process from the team from Go Campaign that has supported us, given us the necessary templates and stuff like that, that we've been able to work together and develop a strategic direction. We didn't have that, and so we are happy with that. We didn't have the capacity to track progress of our programs. And this is the capacity we've been built. Today I'm able to give you all these statistics of change because we are able to track our progress. We're able to track our, how our programs are impacting the community. And all this has been really the support that, Go Campaign has given. So we're happy. We're grateful for this, partnership. And I pray that it continues because then this is the beginning for Voice for Humanity to be the feet on ground for transformation of not just the refugees in Adjumani, but even in communities in Katakwi, where we really want to take, where we have so many orphans that have been, left behind by the HIV/AIDS scourge, but also for the years of instability that have, internal displacements that have happened in the place. So we are very happy and really very optimistic that the future is even more brighter.
Thank you, David. Having worked with you for over a year now, I continue to be, in awe of your tenacity and your passion for, helping youth and their families. It really shines through that you are a true Go Campaign local hero. You are extremely imaginative and resourceful in finding, the resources you need to serve as many youth as possible, and to do so despite just an overwhelming request of you. I know that there's so many beneficiaries that want to be a part of the Voice for Humanity Uganda agricultural training and want to participate, and they're completely primed to. They have the drive, they have the commitment, but there's just simply not resources. But you have managed to, get resources, and I think that the stories of just the past couple of years will continue to really inspire people, and hopefully will continue to support your mission. I just really want to say thank you from Go Campaign. You are doing the work on the ground, and you are telling us what you need, and we're trying to listen. And our community is listening. So thank you so much. And with that being said, I think we'd love to hear some of those beneficiary stories. I know there's at this point no shortage, and it's really incredible because we gave our first grant to Voice Humanity Uganda in June, July of last year, and that was focusing on basically giving youth the opportunity to choose their agricultural enterprise, whether it was you raising livestock, which I know the majority of them chose, and then some were growing vegetables. And I guess what I want to say is they're so impressed that you took the time and were willing to look at the results of that grant, see what could be done better, and then for your next grant, maximize impact with the resources given to you. You shifted towards focusing exclusively on vegetable growing, especially fast growing crops. And we only provided you a grant in May of this year for the vegetable growing project, and we are already seeing so many beneficiaries harvesting their crops, selling them, feeding their families, paying for school expenses, paying for animals, but what are some of the stories that really stick out to you?
Well, Tigan, there are so many stories of change. But let me just share maybe two for purpose of time. I'll just share this because these have really kind of motivated me to do even more with what I have. Sometimes I don't look at what I don't have. I just look at what I have. The skill and myself, the availability and the team that is available, ready to go out to the field and support the communities. But one story that has touched me so much that we just had interaction 2 days ago is of Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a 15-year-old from South Sudan. He's a refugee from South Sudan. And he currently stays in Boroli refugee camp in Adjumani. And Emmanuel just received eggplant seeds and farming tools in early May. And Emmanuel had dropped out of school. And when Emmanuel got this, he was so excited. I could see it from even when he was receiving these tools. He was so excited and he was really passionate and was like, yes. And so Emmanuel goes and plants these eggplants. Now, 2 days ago when we had interaction, Emmanuel says his eggplants, he's now able to harvest them, and he has been selling them. And so far, Emmanuel has gotten 200 US dollars equivalent money that he has raised. Emmanuel is a total orphan. He lost both of his parents in South Sudan. And I asked Emmanuel, what's your dream? He said, one, I've already gone back to school. When I received the eggplants, I knew I would make money. So I went back to school. He's the boy I told you, his term just closed today on Friday. And he was in the 3rd position in his class. And that is the level of commitment. So he said, I'm going to use this money. Number one, I'm going now to buy my own food and be able, I don't have posho, this is maize flour, which normally they make bread and you can eat the eggplant as sauce plus, the maize, the bread from maize flour. So he said, I'm going to buy some food because I still have, my eggplant, so I will continue to sell and earn more money. But this which I've got, I will buy more food. I'm going to pay my fees. This money is actually going to pay my fees for 2 semesters. In Uganda, we call it a term. But I'm sure in your context it's more of a semester. He said, I'm going to be able to pay 2 semesters. And was so excited, saying, yes, I'm covered for the next 2 semesters, which could be about the next 6 months, And I was amazed how Emmanuel is dreaming to become a doctor. But imagine the dream had died, because this dream was finished. He had dropped out of school. He had no hope. But receiving these vegetable seeds and the tools, the gumboots, the hoe, the panga that we gave him, he went and started, he planted this. And what he used to do is he goes to school. In the evening, he comes back, he waters them. And the family where, we call it foster parents, because in the refugee camp, when you are a minor, UN refugee agencies attaches you to a volunteer family. So he was attached to a volunteer family that accepted to receive him. But this is also a poor family. They had nothing, they're also refugees. And so the parents have been supporting him. His foster parents have been supporting him to care for these, eggplants. And this the story we have now of Emmanuel, 15 years. And I look at him with amazement, and I'm like, wow, hope restored. He said, this is the beginning of my journey to become a doctor. That's the statement he made to me. He said, this is the beginning of the journey for me to become a doctor, whom I've longed to be. That story, for me, has changed my whole perspective of the work that I do. It has more like given me an extra engine to even do more, for the likes of Emmanuel. The second story that really, which I want to share with us, that has really touched me, is of Florence. Florence is a 24-year-old, also from South Sudan. But Florence, she lost her father in South Sudan due to the war. And so they ran to Uganda, her and her 4 other siblings. They ran to Uganda in 2016 and settled in Boroli refugee camp. Unfortunately, in 2018, their mother also passes on in the camp. And so Florence has been shouldering as the head of the family. She's now the one taking care of her 4 other siblings. There have been 4, and entirely dependent on food aid. Nothing else. Florence does not go to school. Her other siblings have been going to school. She has been struggling. When they get food rations, she sells some of it to buy them some scholastic materials. So when we got this funding from GO Campaign in July last year, Florence was among those that was identified by the community, because that's the approach we normally do. It is the refugee leaders who help us identify the beneficiaries. We only give them the criteria. So Florence was identified, and so Florence asked to be given seeds of pumpkin seeds. So Florence goes, and with her siblings, her sisters, they plant. I think last month, they were able to begin harvesting the pumpkin seeds. The pumpkins. And by last week, Florence had raised over $1,000 equivalent.
You froze. I'll be back.
I feel like that was a perfect pause for emphasis.
Hi, David. You're back.
Are you getting me?
Yep. We hear you now.
Okay. So Florence is managed with her siblings. They've been working together, has managed to raise 1,000. Pumpkin in Uganda is very much on demand, and it's expensive. One pumpkin goes for $1, literally. In some cases goes even for $2. But Florence raising 1,000, and when I asked Florence, what are you going to do with this $1,000 that you raised equivalent? And she said, well, you know, we've been reliant on entirely food aid from WFP and now this World Food Program, and now this has been reduced. So one, we are going to stock food that should be able to take us for 3 months. We're going to have enough food. We're going to stock food, but also I'm now going to start to pay for the tuition of my 4 other siblings to be able to, you know, continue with their studies. And then she intends to start a business. She says, I want to now supplement and start another business of selling other food items. So this from pumpkin seeds to a story of a complete transformation. You know, Keegan, I want to say, this is an investment of $150 that is creating all this change. For Emmanuel, for Florence, it is not $1,000 investment. No, it's an investment of $150 that Florence has received, that Emmanuel has received, and so many others, that is creating all this change. So we can see what $150 can do. The transformation from $150 to $1,000, from $150 to $200, maybe more, because he's still selling his, you know, pumpkins. This is just, you know, I shared with you earlier of the story of Sunday, who is now becoming a celebrity in her community, because the entire community comes around her and harvests the vegetables, the cowpeas that she planted. The entire community is, you know, depending now on her. So you can imagine that this that we are supporting are not only benefiting, but also extending a hand of help to others. So the 150 is having all this, you know, ripple multiplier effect in the community and the lives of these young people. So for purpose of time, allow me just share those two. But ultimately, like I've been sharing with you so many other, you know, testimonies, there's lots of stories when you're in the field, lots of stories of transformation and change.
Yes, it seems like there's no shortage. Like, even though the amount of beneficiaries that, you know, that GO Campaign and Voice Humanity has impacted together, it's a fixed amount. It's 210, like you said. It's just amazing how, you know, even from getting just one animal in many cases last year. So since the beneficiaries got to choose their agricultural enterprise, a lot of them chose to get goats.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned a few did vegetables, like Florence did pumpkin seeds, and that ended up being incredibly successful and profitable.
Absolutely. There's so many whose animals have given birth. Others, you know, have been able to sell. I shared with you another story of this young lady we gave her 1 piglet and it gave birth, and she was able to sell other piglets, and now she has remained with the 3, the mother and the 2 others, and you know, she has gotten the money. She's now able to, you know, buy her own food, extra food, be able to take care of other extra basic needs. You know, this support that we're giving, once, you know, is enabling these young people to be able to meet just beyond the food, be able to meet all this range of basic needs. As you know, we've seen, you know, from 1 animal to 2 animals to 3 animals to 5 animals. So we had one that received the poultry. We just gave 5 poultry, and by last month she had 15. We gave her last year 5 birds, and by last month she had 15. And her dream is that she wants by the end of this year to have about 100 birds. In Uganda, 1 poultry bird goes for a bare minimum of close to $10, between $7 to $10. So if she has about 100, you can be rest sure she has about, you know, $7,000, you know, or more that she will be able to raise. So these are all, there are so many stories, ultimately, Keegan, that I could share of transformation and change.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, hopefully, most likely many more. I think with the impact that Voice Humanity has had recently, and with the arguably increasingly dire need, the food need in the Adjumani camp and across Uganda for refugees, your work is so critically needed going forward, that it will hopefully continue to impact many more. And I want to thank you for bringing up the per beneficiary cost. I didn't think to bring that up, and it's so powerful to me. $150 or less. It is such a smart investment in such a highly motivated population of youth, that it's a no-brainer. And with your technical expertise and guidance, and the fact that your small team, continues to go out into the field, to travel quite a distance sometimes, to Adjumani, to check in on beneficiaries from last year, to see how they're doing, to provide mentorship and guidance, and to collect impact data to make sure that you're actually having an impact with your strategy and your projects. And it's so clear that you are. So yeah, I think, like you said, we can go on about beneficiary stories, but I think we have about 15 minutes left on this call, and I would like to open up this as a casual discussion and invite our GO Campaign community to ask David questions and learn a bit more. I'm also happy to direct anyone to resources, Voice Humanity's website, and after this, but please feel free to chime in and ask.
I have a question, if I may. David, nice to meet you. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you too.
Tell me, in your origin story, in your story of your youth, I'm just fascinated. We have to know more about how could you take less than $1 and change that around, because obviously I don't think you could do that today in today's world. $1 doesn't get you very far. So this was obviously several years ago, but I'm fascinated to learn how you did that, because that's really remarkable.
That's true. That's true. So when I received this less than $1, there's a sort of a bean that we call soya beans. And so that soya beans, when you roast it on fire and put some salt, and people love it so much to eat it. And so what I did was, with the less than $1, it actually gave me 2 cups, which is more like 1 kilogram, about 1,000 grams of that soya. So what I did was to go and roast it, put in salt, and I moved around with it to where people were collected, others drinking, and then I had some small, sort of a teaspoon, which I could use to measure and give, they could give me small pennies, and so when I sold that, I was, my profit was actually double, because when you receive this 1 kilogram, you at less than $1, I actually managed to get $2. And I remember when I started to move out to the community to sell, many of them were very supportive. Say, oh, okay, they knew me and they loved me so much. So wherever I would go, everybody would be like, oh, I want to buy your soya beans, and they would buy. So what I did, I remember it was a Friday, and Friday normally is a market day in my village here. So I moved around within like 1 hour. All of it was finished. So I went and bought another one. Within another 1 hour, it was finished. So within one day, I had made a profit of, 3 times what I had received. So what I did that very evening was to go back to the guy who had given me the, the less than $1. I gave him back his money and was so fast. I said, hey, why have you given me back? I said, no, I'm okay now. Now I have made, I've made mine. I've made some money. Now I can continue from here. So that is how I continue to multiply this money, and it enabled me to be able to go back. Luckily for me then, that it was a period when, I had already dropped out of school, for 1 whole semester. So this was a holiday. And so I utilized that holiday to make money. So when the next semester started, I said, well, I now have the money. to go back to school. So I went back to the head teacher. My head teacher knew my situation. And so what he did was he told me to pay a half of the tuition. He was so kind to me. He told me to pay a half of the tuition. And so I phoned. So even in school, I could carry my soybeans and be selling to the students in school. So up to today, my OBs and OGs know me as a businessman, even though I'm really not doing business now. But I used to carry my soybean to class, and then during break times, I would sell and I'm able. So when I come back from school in the evening, I would continue to move within the community, find people who are drinking, and be able to sell my soybean. So that's really how the less than $1, continue to create a change. Of course, yes, like you said, that wouldn't apply today because there's all this inflation that has happened. By then, that money that I received was actually, and our currency, it was 200, and by then it was basically a coin of 200 shillings, in Ugandan currency. Now today, 200 shillings can't buy you even a sweet. If you went to a grocery, you can't even buy a sweet with it. But it made a huge change in my life to today. I am who I am because of that coin of 200 shillings.
That's an amazing, amazing story. I can't, amazing. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
I had a really quick question. I know you had mentioned before that GO Campaign has helped impact, I think you said around like 250.
210. 210. Yes.
210 beneficiaries or 210 like families or things like that? Because from what I'm hearing, even if you have been able to help out one beneficiary, you're actually helping out the whole community. Like that number is the impact seems like
yes.
It's so large. It's not just that one person, it's the whole communities and everybody that's around them. It's truly like so nice and encouraging to hear that these small things that you've been doing have been helping out everybody, not just these singular people.
Yeah, so this is individual beneficiaries. So what we do is that when we receive a grant, we target just individuals within the household. So these are individual beneficiaries, the 210. But remember, these individuals come from households which have household number of 5, 6, 7, and all of these now sort of depend on this support that one individual has gotten. So this entire household, eventually where these individuals come, end up benefiting. But our target is the 210 are the individual beneficiaries.
That's incredible.
David, go ahead.
I have a question for you. How much is the tuition for school there?
So it really depends from one school to the other, but the bare minimum that really one, it depends from one school to another because different schools charge differently, but also most importantly the location of the school, the class of the school. There are high-end schools, there are low-end schools. So but normally, on average, for low-end schools where really most of our beneficiaries go to, because they can't afford high-end schools, the tuition goes as low as $50. They're able to pay for a semester. They're able to pay the entire semester as low as $50.
And there's 4 semesters in a year, right?
No, that's so there are 3 semesters in a year. So in a whole year, you need about $150 bare minimum to be able to take care of your tuition for the entire year. Yeah.
Thank you, David, for sharing so many incredible stories. And I echo what Keegan said. It's so helpful to hear, you know, about so many families that are, it's not helpful to hear, but it's sad to hear that so many families are living on $10 a month and just what the variety of things cost over there. I'm wondering, you know, you did mention your 5-year plan and that you have that in place. I would love to hear more about that 5-year plan and what it will take to get you there to where you would like to be.
Beautiful. So, first, we want to continue with the work that we are doing to reach out to more young people, more households. And we have planned to be able to reach out to 500 young people per year.
Okay.
So over the next 5 years, our plan is to be able to reach out to about 2,500 over the next 5 years. So far, this, as I gave you the statistics, that's where we are. But we want to be able to reach out to 2,500 young people with the skills and also with the startup seed capital, for them to be able to generate income and be able to grow their own food. The other second thing that we really plan, which is more sustainable, is that we are looking at establishing a sustainability project. And in this sustainability project, we are looking at establishing a mixed farm. So once we have a mixed farm, what that does is, one, it gives us the opportunity to be able to continue to support young people without being interrupted by funding challenges, because then we can be able to generate the resources that we need to continue to support young people from there, even the tools, because then we can be able to multiply the seeds or multiply the animals from within our farm, and we can be able to give them to the young people, to the households at a lower, relatively very low cost compared to what they would need to buy it from out there. But also we can use that farm to be a model farm to train young people and many households. So that is the strategy that we are looking at, to be able to become more sustainable. With that in place, we can actually be able to impact thousands of many more young people when we have this, farm. The beauty about it, which I'm happy to report, is that we have the community leader who has offered us 10 acres of land free of charge. We already have 10 acres of land. What we need is this funds to invest in the 10 acres of land. And we did develop the business plan. We need about $100 to $150 to be able to set this farm. And once we set this farm and running, we are able to impact hundreds of, thousands of young people and households who can come and learn, but also will be able to access the tools from within, at a very relatively low cost, but while giving us the opportunity to, to continue our work. So that's what we have projected over the next, 5 years, to continue to directly impact and support young people, but also we are looking at a more sustainable approach where we have a sustainability project.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So just to continue on that, given the fact that you have that incredible 10 acres donated to you, and you already have that jumpstart, what US dollar kind of ballpark amount would that look like to help you get that up and going?
We need $100,000. We can be able,
okay.
Yes, 100,000 USD. We can be able to get that up and running.
Okay.
Because what that will do for us, one, we need to clear it off completely, because it's a land that has never been used, so it is bushy. So we need to hire some tractors, clear it off, and then we need to fence it off, fence this 10-acre piece of land so that we do not have animals or other stray, trespass or stuff like that. So we want to fence it. But more importantly, we want then to be able to have a sustainable water source within the water. So we want to drill a well that can be motorized, and then we can put up the tanks so that even with the current climatic changes that we are having, prolonged droughts, we can have sustainable source of water that we can use to water our, plants, but also give the animals to drink. And then what that 100,000 USD will do also is that it will enable us to be able to establish houses for piggery, for poultry, for goat, and it will also enable us to buy greenhouses. All this is what we are looking at, the necessary tools that we need to put in place so that we can have this farm functioning. So once we have that 100,000 USD, that is what we are able to do.
Okay, amazing. Well, I think you've just told us our goal to get you there. So thank you. That's really incredible. And once again, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And it's worth mentioning that 10 acres is a lot, in case you guys don't know. I looked it up, 435,600 square foot. So this kind of land would be a game changer if it's developed to the point that, they can sell food. And it would be so incredible, I think, for Voice for Humanity to have a center to bring the youth to, instead of having to spend on transportation costs for Voice for Humanity staff to drive out to Adjumani, to drive to the individual settlements within Adjumani, and to have youth just grow food on their own individual plots of land that they're allotted to by the government, which they can still continue doing, but then also participate in activities at the farm. So really an incredible idea for a project, and definitely something that GO Campaign seeks to try and support you with, and continue to mobilize resources towards your activities, because it's needed more than ever, and it's so impactful, it's so cost effective. You really exemplify everything that we look for in a partner and in a local hero. I say that without any reservation. So thank you so much, David. I know we're approaching an hour. People, please feel free to drop off if you need to. But I just wanted to ask if anyone had any lingering questions. I feel like David might have a few more minutes to spare. Or no? Do you have a few more minutes to spare, David?
Yes, I'm pretty much available. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
I have one more question. David, what is the relationship between the refugee camps and the local communities of Ugandans? How are the relations?
Well, one, I would say the Ugandan, and I want to thank the Ugandan government and the Ugandan people for their hospitality. Much of this land that the refugees are settled is given free of charge by the locals. This is, they just donate this land to the government, and then the government settles. And they don't get any pay for the land that they offer for the refugees. Yes, so that's really points you to the human kind heart that people have to, in a situation, in a crisis as this, when people are running away from their country because of conflict, that they need this love, they need this compassion, they need this reception. And so that is really the basis on which the refugees and the hosting communities relate. Where the refugees are appreciative that thank you for giving us the land where we are settled, but also where the locals are saying, this is our kind gesture to you. There is nothing more we can give. This is all we have. We have this land. God gave us this land. We can offer this to you. Of course, due to challenges to do with shared resources, refugees come, they need firewood, they need water, they need health, they need this, and these are inadequate, So there are those moments of, normal, challenges or conflicts, but we have mechanisms that we have developed for resolving this. Most often when there is a conflict as that, when maybe because of some refugees have some animals that they have been empowered and they could go and eat the crops for the the host community, that could cause some disharmony, but that's also settled. But the bottom line is that the refugees are appreciative and they have so much respect for the host community for their kind gesture. And the host community have always given their hearts and given the best that they have. That's all they could offer, really. Yeah.
Any more questions, anyone? I know we learned a lot today.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me. My name's John Dax. I'm in Australia, and I'm sorry, my technology's playing up. I live out in the country a bit, and we don't get good signal. I just wanted to say that I've known David now for, wow, 13 years, David, 13 years. And I'm so pleased I was able to get to see him tonight, because we email each other maybe twice a year, and I hardly ever get to actually connect. So I'm sorry, I'm being a bit cheeky using this opportunity to say hello, personal hello. But I guess, and it's 2:30 in the morning here, but I guess I'm blown away by David's passion and his commitment. And I think a feature that we sometimes don't necessarily get is that David's a local person in the country who's doing a whole lot of work. And I know, I've gone over to Uganda a few times, and oftentimes there are overseas agencies sending people over, people, but it's still from overseas. David is from Uganda, and I think this is one of the real advantages, for want of a better word, of the work that David does. He is one of the people in the country supporting the country, and the people around that country who've come there for help. So I hope that was okay. I didn't know if that was the right use of this time, but good to see you, David, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for joining. And Keegan, John Dutch is one of the board members of Voice for Humanity. He really volunteered to be, and he's been one person that has supported us since 2014. When John has been in Uganda a couple of times, we have gone to the refugee camp together, him and his wife Helen, and I'm so excited to see you this evening. Thank you so much. I did invite John to join in this call, so thank you, John, again for joining in the call, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. My regards to Helen, really. Yeah,
thank you. She's asleep.
Thank you.
John, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate everyone that joins, but especially the troopers that are up at 2 a.m. and have such a personal stake in David, and are here to share your support of him, because we feel the same way about David. We're just blown away, me especially, because I'm the one who gets to talk to him the most. It's such a joy and a pleasure. And David often talks about the others that support him, the various people overseas, and so I probably heard about you before. So.
Oh, I hope it was good.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll just
Jennifer.
jump in. I could have all kinds of questions, but I'll just do my own research. I just want to say, just thank you as one of the GO Campaign donors. I don't give a lot, but I do support GO Campaign and their mission statement. And I always love hearing from, the people that they work with directly on the ground, and just inspires me and makes me remember I don't have it too bad. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing the stories, and all the best to you and everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support. It's making a difference on ground. That investment is not in vain. It's really making a whole huge of a difference on ground. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's not enough. I wish I could do more, but I'm glad to hear how much just a little bit goes. So, and that it sounds like it's used very wisely, very carefully, very intentionally. So that's always good to hear. And I know Go Campaign fosters people, who do that. So obviously they found a good one. Thank you.
I have one more question for you, David, and it's one I've never asked you. Very briefly, what do you like to do for fun?
Would I like to?
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, what do I like to do for fun? I love venturing, really. Seeing animals, visiting, just seeing nature is really what makes me so happy. And sometimes I do reading. I read at my free time, but really those are. And then occasionally I watch soccer when I need to relax. But yes, so that's really what I do.
Well, I really hope one day I and maybe some of the other people on this call can come to Uganda, maybe play a little bit of soccer, meet your amazing family, and just see the amazing work you're doing. But in the meantime, we're here if and when you need us, and we hope that you continue to get the resources that you need and accomplish so much for these youth who are really just little Davids, and they will go on to have such an amazing multiplier effect on the families, on the communities. Who knows, the generations down the line that you've already impacted. So from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you so much. Thank you for joining today. We are so proud of you. We're so proud of your team. We consider all of your team local heroes, and it's a small team. It's amazing what you accomplish. I mean, it's what, 4 or 5 people at this point, maybe more.
Did you say about the refugees?
Oh, so how big is your team now?
The team?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a team of 3 and 1 volunteer. So we basically 4 people now. Yes.
Yep. But you still have people going out to the field. You still have people fundraising. You've done so much. You do so much on your own. It inspires all of us, especially me, every day. Cool stuff.
It's the stories that of transformation that are really more of an engine to us as a team, and I'm so glad even to GO Campaign to support us to be able to sustain the staff, keep them there. Initially, we had a challenge of having staff to stay because they have needs, and when you don't have funds to support them to pay them, and then they are forced to look for other options. But the support of giving us the administrative costs has really stabilized us. It's really stabilized. Now we have staff that are committed, motivated, and of course they were really motivated even initial. But it's good to have some appreciation and being able to meet personal needs at home. So really, really grateful. Thank you so much.